So, Morai Rabotai, today we'll discuss a very interesting topic. I'm asked this question all the time, especially by people that go to Eretz Yisrael to celebrate the bar mitzvah of their children. And they ask, can I have my son read the Torah even though he's not 13 yet? He'll be 13 later say on Friday, and he wants to have the ceremony by the Kotel, on Thursday. He prepared for the Torah, right? He's reading on Shabbos. The kid can prepare 2 parashas to read on Monday is a little too much for him. So he wants to move back and read on Thursday. He's still a katan midin Torah. He can't be part of a minyan. Could he read the Torah on that Thursday morning before he's officially 13 years old? So the father, as a joke, told me, he's like, Ma baya. He told me last week, Ma baya. We have the men's section here, we have the women on the wall reading the Torah there. We'll have ketanim reading in a different section. Right? But everything's equal. We're going to have every section. But Be'emet, we'll see that the Gemara already discusses these cases. And we'll try to go through what the Rishonim hold and what Halacha l'maisa the minhag is in these matters. But before we do that, I want to give you a basic introduction and some important facts. Bezrat Hashem, we'll take out Gemara Megillah Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Bet. I think that's sheet number 1 over there. We'll just look at some basic facts as an introduction. The Mishnah over there tells us. Any more sheets here?
I'll listen. I like to listen.
Okay. So you know this by heart anyways.
Oh, yeah.
In any event. So the Mishnah over there tells us, gives us a list of different items that need to have a minyan osara that you must have 10 people for. It says when you have Chazar Shatz and the Siyas Kapayim, Birkat Kohanim, you got to have 10 people. And it adds a Kriyat Torah is one of the things that you must have 10 people for. That is a given that we know. Says the Gemara, we're in the Gemara over there, Menahani Mili, how do we know we need 10 people for all these things? What's the raya? What's the proof? Where in the Torah do we see that you need 10 people for this? So Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Reb Chia bar Abba says the name of Yochanan. The Amar Kra, it says in the pasuk, V'nikdashti betoch bnei Yisrael. I should be sanctified betoch bnei Yisrael, amongst the Jewish people. So says Rabbi Yochanan, Kol davar shebekidusha lo yeh pachod me'asara. Anything of kedusha cannot be less than 10. But where do we see number 10? It doesn't say number 10 in the pasuk. So the Gemara says, "My mashma." Where do you see the number 10? The Tani Rabbi Chia teaches us, "Atia toch toch." We have a gzera shava toch toch, right? It says, "Ktiv hacha v'nikdashi betoich b'nei Yisrael." V'ksevasam. It says elsewhere, that's in the Parshas Korach, "Hibadlu mitoich ha'eda." We still don't see number 10. We don't see number 10 yet. So we have another Gzera Shava. Va'atya Eda Eda. Then we have Gzera Shava Eda Eda. Dichtiv, it says Hasam ad matai le'eda hara'a azois. That's regarding the Miraglim, Parsha Shlach, right? And by the Miraglim, how many people are we talking about over there? Who were the Eda hara'a azois? How many people were we talking about? 10. 10 Miraglim were problematic, right? So we see they're called Eda. So too by Korach, when it says Eda, it's at least 10 plus. And then we have the Gzera Shav Toch Toch, just like by Korach it was 10 plus, so too Mikdashi B'toch B'nei Yisrael must be 10 or more men. That is.
Where does it say men?
Huh?
It says men?
B'toch B'nei Yisrael. B'toch B'nei Yisrael. Right? And the Miraglim were also, Kacha, Eshbo. I didn't realize I have some tough competition over here. 1 second. Let's just stick with the, 1 second. So Morai Rabotai, listen very carefully. That's given number 1. You got to have 10 men. Okay, beautiful. Let's look at point number 2. We're going to look at the Mishnah and Megillah, Daf Chaf Aleph. I think that's sheet number 2 over there. Right? Mishnah and Megillah, Daf Chaf Aleph. Over there we see, we underline the words over there. It says, B'sheni v'chamishi b'Shabbos b'mincha, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos mincha, Kairin shleisha. 3 people read the Torah. Ein pochatin mehen, ve'en mosifin alei. We don't have less, we don't have more. Ve'en maftir minav, we don't have maftir either. Hapoteach ve'achotem b'Torah, the one who starts reading, the one that ends reading, mevarach lefanea ul'achareya. They make the bracha before and after. We'll explain in a second. Right? And then the Mishnah says, B'rosh Chodashim v'chol Shemoed, and Rosh Chodesh v'chol Hamoed, korin arba'ah. You have 4 people read. We don't have less, we don't have more. Then it goes on to Yom Tov is 5, Yom Kippur is 6, Shabbos is 7. What does the word korin shloisha mean? 3 people read. What does it mean reading? They means that I go up and make a bracha and then Avi reads? Is that what it means? Or do I myself read the Torah itself? So the basic understanding is that anyone that goes up to the Torah, he's the one that reads. That means you have a Kohen gets Rishon, he reads the Aliyah itself. Levi reads Sheni, Shlishi, Revi, everyone reads themselves. What's the raya? Because the Mishnah tells us that the guy that starts makes the bracha of Asher Bachar Banu, and the guy that ends makes the bracha of Asher Nasalanu. Right? In other words, only the first and last guy make the bracha. And therefore, when it says Kohen, it means mamish reading the Torah itself. You actually go up and read the Torah. The minhag is not like that because most people don't know how to read. So therefore, in the times of the Goyim, they already started this concept of Baal Koireh and everything else. Right? But in reality, the original takana was every person reads on his own. On his own. There's only one bracha in the beginning, one bracha at the end. And the Gemara says that they changed the minhag. The Chachamim had to institute a minhag that everyone makes a bracha in the beginning and the end. In case someone comes in the middle of Kriyas Torah, he won't think, oh, there's no brachas, what's going on over here? Confusion, Beseres in the middle. Everyone makes the bracha on Kriyas Torah, both in the beginning and at the end. These facts you just have to remember as we go through the Shiur, Be'ez Hashem, because it's going to be very, very critical to answer several questions that we're going to have. So back to the original kasha. The question was, could we let a kid that's under 13 years old to read the Torah a week before his bar mitzvah? Let's just say he has family from Israel that's anyways here, they're going back, or you're going to be by the Koisel, and his bar mitzvah is on Friday, he wants to move it back to Thursday. Do we allow him to do it or not? So let's go to sheet number 3 now. I read another part of Gemara Megillah. It's a brayso. It's all the way on the top right. Megillah Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. Tano Rabbanan. Hakol olin leminyan shiva. Everyone could go up to be part of a minyan shiva, meaning on Shabbos we have 7 olim, right? Anyone could go up on Shabbat to the Torah. Ve'afilu katan, ve'afilu isha. Even a minor and even a lady. Aval amu chachamim, but the chachamim said, Isha lo tikra b'Torah mipnei kavod hatzibur. The woman shouldn't go up because of kavod hatzibur. Let's put the woman aside for a second. Let's discuss the minor, the child, the katan. Mashur from here that a katan could read the Torah, right? Doesn't say, but we don't allow him because of kavod hatzibur. Katan, the chorek could go up to the Torah. The question is, can he go up on Mondays and Thursdays and Yom Tov and Yom Kippur, or only on Shabbos? What does the Gemara say? The Brayso says, "Minyan Shiva." Minyan Shiva. It says on Shabbat, L'chara, it's motivating him to go up, but on Monday and Thursday, L'chara not. Otherwise, the Gemara should have said, "Hakol Erlin L'Torah," right? Men, women, children, but women don't because of the tzibur. The fact that it says Minyan Shiva, L'chara, it's mashma. So we have some Rishonim interpret, Rabbeinu Yishaya Rishon, a few other Rishonim interpret like that. They say Shabbat, you have 7 olim, so many people go up anyways, so to have one child is not a big deal, not the end of the world. But on Monday and Thursday, Rosh Chodesh, end of Al-Kazi, you don't let the kids go up. Even if he's a day before, it makes no difference. You got to be a Gadol Mamish to go up to the Torah on any other day. That's how some Rishonim interpret the Gemara. We're going to look at the Rambam now, on the top left. Rambam Hilchot Tfilah, Perek Yud Bet. Halacha Tet Zayin, let's look at this inside. Tell me what you think the Rambam holds in this case. Kama hen hakorin. How many people read the Torah? It says the Rambam, B'Shabbat, B'Shacharit, Korin Shiva. Shabbos, Shachris, we have 7. Yom Kippurim, Shisha. Yom Tovim, Chamisha. Ein pochatin mehen, ava mosifin alehem. We don't have less, but we could add. The reason why in Shabbat and Yom Kippur and Yom Tov we could add is because no one's rushing to work anyways. Right? So it's not really such a Torah tzibur. So therefore, Meikar didn't allow to add aliyahs on those days. Berosh Chodashim, B'Chodesh HaMoed, Korin Arba, we have 4. B'Shabbos, U'B'Yom Kippur, U'B'Mincha, U'B'Sheni, U'B'Chamishi, and also Monday and Thursday, Shekol Hashan of all year round, U'B'Chanukah, U'B'Purim, B'Shachris, U'B'Mei HaTainis, B'Shachris, U'B'Mincha, Korin Shloisha. 3. Ein Pochatim Minyan Zeh, Ve'ein Mosifin. We don't have less, we don't have more. Reasons are basically because people are rushing to go out, I have work, I have this, I have that. Therefore, we don't add more than the 3 that the Chachamim gave us. The end of Rambam adds in Halacha Yud Zayin. Isha lo tikra b'tzibur. Women should not read in public. Mimnei kavod hatzibur. Katan hayodea likrot v'yodea lemi mevarchin ole miminyan hakorim. Says the Rambam Beverush, a katan could go up. Mashma, just on Shabbos or every other day as well. So the fact that the Rambam brings down this din after he mentions Shabbos is 7, Yom Kippur is 6, and Yom Tov is 5, and Chol Hamoed is 4, and Rosh Chodesh is 4, Monday and Thursday is 3, and then he says the Kaddish could go up. Lichora he holds, it's going on all those days. The Rambam, again, he's very dat b'lshono, he's very careful with his wording. Right? So the fact that the Rambam brings down the rule of a katan after he mentions all these other the rules and regulations of the days, mashma every single day, could it be that the Rambam's chalik on the Gemara? It's not possible. So who could explain what the Rambam holds? How does the Rambam read the Gemara then? Because the basic reading of the Gemara is like you said, Shiva and only Shiva. So how would the Rambam read the Gemara? Who could explain this to me? How could the Rambam's opinion fit into the Gemara? Is the question clear?
Yeah.
Very, very posh. What? No, so I'm asking you what the answer is. Think about it for just a quick moment.
Because could it relate to who says the brachas? If there's a first person who said the bracha and then the last person, then if he's in the middle, then maybe. Let's say on a Monday or a Thursday, if he was a Levi, maybe it would be easier for him to read because he's only calling 3 people. I don't know.
I hear what you're saying. Okay, Beseder. I hear I hear what you're saying.
Or, to read would not make the bracha.
You're telling me that the problem is the bracha, not the reading? Remember, in the times of the Gemara, there was no bracha in the middle. So
that's why. So that's what I'm saying. He could get Levi.
No, but when the Gemara says Hakol Oil in the Minyan Shiva, right?
So
this is the Chara referring to when?
Shabbos.
I understand, but when they had no bracha also, no?
Right, because only the Kayan and the last person.
Exactly. So therefore, how would it help that the Kaddish could read Revi or Chamishi?
So that would be, it should be good.
It should be good.
It should
what about during the week?
So maybe, that's what I'm trying to say, that during the week, a Kayan and a Yisrael couldn't, but maybe a Levi.
Okay. So now you're getting to, I hear what you're saying. Beseder. But let's look at it from a different angle. The other angle of saying it is as follows. If we're telling you that on Shabbos, where the Shul is packed, it's Yom Kadosh, the holiest day of the week, and the Gemara, the Mishnah is telling us you can let a kid go up to the Torah. Kal v'chaimer on a Monday and Thursday, there's 20 people in Shul, right? You can let a child go up to the Torah, right? The Rambam is not reading it as Dafka Shiva, Dafka on Shabbos. He's telling you, if on Shabbos it's mutter, kal v'chaimer it's mutter to go on any other day, because on Shabbat it's the holiest day. Maybe it's a covered yom and covered at tzibur. Maybe you shouldn't let the kid go up. Oh, says the Mishnah, you could let the kid go up. Kal v'chaimer, let him go on Monday and Thursday. Kal v'chaimer, let him go up on Rosh Chodesh or Khal Hamoed. That's how the Or Zarura understands the sugya. You look over here in the Or Zarura, brought down over there, right under the Gemara Megillah, where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom of the Or Zarura. V'hadetanu Rabbanan, you see it? V'hadetanu Rabbanan. Hakol olin leminyan shiva afilu isha afilu katan. This is in the Mishnah that everyone goes up to the Torah on Shabbos, even a woman, even a child. The sakadata chamina. I would have thought ho'il v'kavod Shabbos chamira v'tu, and furthermore, the ikka kinuf yada hakol betelin ulachton. So many people coming, no one goes to work. Ubayin lebeizik nest, everyone comes to shul. Mishum kavod Shabbos lekavod tzibur derabim heim. Lo yeh katan oile kamash mela. No, of course you could go up. That's not a shala. You might think that on Shabbos when it's packed and it's Yom Kaddish, you won't let a kid. Kamash mela, it's mutter for him to go up. Avasha oile leminyan gimel lo tzarich leile misni. Right, but to say that you could go up on a Monday and Thursday, we don't have to say that. We don't need the Mishnah to tell us that. It's never pasha.
So what's the next line? Chas v'shalom with a woman now. What is it going to say?
No, with the woman, the Gemara took care of. The woman is taken care of. Covered it. That's not even a shayla.
It's only a few people. She could make.
No. We see over here that the Rambam said it clear. He says women not because covered at tzibur, right? And he says that after he mentioned 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Right? After all the days of kriya. So that's not even a shayla. The women don't go up. It's not even a shayla. The truth is that Oel Etzion has a shayla. He just discusses this. He writes, maybe efsher. He would never say halacha. He says as a pilpul. Maybe if you have a situation where, let's just say you have a whole family gathering together, right? Whole family gathering together, and you have a bunch of children and grandchildren all together, and they want to read the Torah, the bar mitzvah, and all you have is family members. He says, maybe it's not covered at tzibur, like a covered at tzibur. Maybe you can let your grandmother go up to the Torah. He says, obviously, it's not nice. So this is just saying because no tzibur, it's all her grandkids and her children. Right? Of course, Lamaisa, we don't do any of that. That's the Pirta Chamura. But the point is that women never go up. We don't have such a thing. That women never go up.
Is it in Mitzvah Shazman Grama anyway?
Not so partial, because it's not a chovah to go up to the Torah. You have to understand. The mitzvah of Kriyas Torah is not a mitzvah on me or you or anyone else. In other words, if I miss the Kriyas Torah today, I don't have to go to another minyan and catch the Kriyas Torah. I don't. If I miss the Megillah, I got to go catch another minyan or read it myself. Kriyas Torah is chovat hatzibur. It's an obligation on the congregation. Right? Every tzibur should be reading the Torah on Mondays and Thursdays, Shabbos, yada yada yada. Right? I understand. No, it says yishtadel. Maran Mechaber writes clearly yishtadel. A person should try. What if someone's not feeling good? Or what if a guy happens to be when they read the Torah, he has to go to the bathroom, so he has to go wait for the next minute to hear the next Kriyas Torah? According to Halacha, he doesn't. It's not a chayva on me. It's a chayvas tzibur. Every tzibur must have a Kriyas Torah. But it's not a chayvas yachid. It's not a chayva on me as an individual. So if I happen to miss it, okay, not a good thing. If I can catch another minyan, but I'm not chayiv to go catch another minyan, right? But in any event, so we have a different mahalach. The Rambam apparently reads the Gemara totally differently, right? There's another Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos where he quotes the Geonim, who hold that only from 3 and up you can let a kid go up, right? Meaning Revi, Chamishi. But we see in the Halacha Sefer, in the Khazaq, he writes clearly, the Chorah, he holds clearly that a child could go up to the Torah, whether it's Monday, Thursday, Rosh Chodesh, or Shabbos, makes no nafka mina. L'maaseh, you look at the Birkei Yosef over here, he brings down as follows. Is it underlined by you or not? It's right by the first paragraph. He writes, Amnam l'dasa mikubalim, dafka l'minyan zayin. Right? According to the mikubalim, dafka zayin. Only when you have...
Maftir.
No, 2 ways of reading it. Now Rizal actually holds like he says, dafka shvi. When it says, l'minyan shiva, it means dafka teshvi. Kavacham maftir. Maftir is number 8. Right? Dafka teshvi.
Mashlim.
Right? Mashlim. Mashlim is shvi. Right? And that's what the Mikubalim hold. And Be'emes, the halacha l'maisa, that's what the Pesachim hold, not to let kids go up. But the Sephardic communities, for instance, I read the Torah when I was 10 years old for the first time. I read Maftir, and then I read Haftarah as well. I was 10 years old at the time, and the Emes says, I remember that better than any other Kriya I ever made. Right? I practiced, Baruch Hashem, I really put my heart into it. But the minhag is definitely have to let kids go up to the Torah. Minhag in many Sephardic communities is to allow is to allow a kid to read the Torah even when he's a minor. We let him go up like the Arizal, only Shvi or Maftir. But if it's a Shasat Chak, like they asked for Moshe, it was Moshe Kelik Beis, Simon Ein Beis, I think it is. He says, Betau bizman heyoseh ben Yud Gimel Shana. They made a mistake. They gave the kid the wrong date, right? V'lamdu likra sidra the Shabbos hakodim. Imish lahakol she'em b'akavod tzibur. He has a whole tshuva about this, and he goes back and forth, right? L'maisa shudi chavedad writes b'shatat chak. Shasat chak, when the kid already prepared, or everyone's already here from Eretz Yisrael, they're leaving, or it has to do with the guests and this and that. You can let the kid read an aliyah on a Monday or a Thursday. If the kid already prepared, you don't want to hurt the kid's feelings, whatever it is. Let him read if he's a few days prior to his bar mitzvah. Shazat Chag. I don't let kids go up over there and do it. Shazat Chag in these situations, obviously everyone should ask his personal Rav, but that's what they hold. Shazat Chag, yes?
If he's only 13, or it doesn't matter as long as it's a few days before the Bava?
A few days before, they were talking about...
But he has to be 13 already.
No, he's not 13. No. My bar mitzvah is, let's just say, on Friday morning. Okay? And I want to have Kriyas Torah on Thursday, so you can have a video as I'm reading the Torah. Shabbos you can't record it. And Monday I'm not ready for it. Right? So I want to read on Thursdays. That's where the person is madaning, should we let him go up or not? Right? So some would tell you, listen, based on the Rambam, based on the Orzarua, right? There's room to be makel. B'shazat chak, b'shazat tzorech. Right? Doesn't mean that chatchil we should have a bunch of kids going up. But in terms of going up for maftir on Shabbos, many Sephardic communities allow the kids to do it based on the Gemara, based on the Arizal, based on the basic pshat. The Mishnah Berurah writes the minhag in their makam, in the Ashkenazim, is not to do any of this. Have you ever seen this? Have you seen kids go up? Anyone? You ever seen any cousins go up? Yeah. Doesn't happen. Mishnah Berurah says it doesn't happen. That's the common minhag amongst Ashkenazim.
Well, because you're not
Right? Huh? For maftir.
Yeah, my grandchildren do all.
Oh, they went up before 13. Oh, 1 second. You're Ashkenazi or Sfaradi?
Iranian.
So okay, beside you fooled me thinking you're Ashkenazi. Persians do it. Of course, the Persians do it, right? No, I'm telling you, the Sephardic communities do it 100%. They let the kids go up to maftir. 100%. Hey, as long as he knows who he's, yeah.
After is not considered an aliyah.
Right. Okay, listen. Shvi also. I told you, Shvi also. Shvi, even Mashlim. Right? Morai Rabotai, stop right here. Okay, we saw it's mutter, it's minhag is that to a lot in certain places, but there's a bigger question that must be answered.
It's 90%.
There's a major question that must be answered. One second, one second. Let's analyze something. We have a rule in Gemara Rosh Hashanah. Kol ha-mechuyev b'davar, moitzi. Kol she'eino mechuyev b'davar, eino moitzi. Right? Anyone that's obligated in something could be moitzi someone else with that mitzvah. If you're not mechuyev, you cannot be moitzi someone else. Right? Kiddush. I'm obligated in Kiddush. I make Kiddush. I have you all in mind. Oh, I want to make Kiddush again second time, no problem. I can be moitzi someone else second time. I can be moitzi my wife and then go to my grandmother and go to my neighbor. I can be moitzi others. So I have a chiyuv in Kiddush. Call Yisrael, everything is there. So I can come along and be moitzi others as well. Right? But if I have no chiyuv in it, a katan has no chiyuv in Kiddush. Right? So you can't be moitzi a gadol. Right? So if that's the case, how could a katan read the Torah on our behalf? He's not mechuyev. Right? But there's a similar question that the poskim asked regarding this. You know, by Sfirat HaOmer, famous B'chagis, one long mitzvah, 49 different mitzvahs, right? If you miss a day, right? So we also have a Chazaq. You miss a full day, you count without a bracha. But the famous question is, what if you have the Rav of the Shul that forgets to count for a full 24 hours? And he usually makes the Sfira out loud. And when they tell him, b'chavod, right? How do you say it when you tell him, b'chavod, how do you say it? What do you say? Right, b'chavod kvod harav, go ahead. And what is he going to say? I missed a day. He's giving a whole speech. You have to be careful. Put up posters in your house, and then you make sure you put an alarm clock. And he missed the full day. So are we going to allow him to do? Can he come along to you and say, "Listen, Habibi, do me a favor. You don't count right now. I'll count for you. I'll make the bracha. Have you in mind? Shalom Yisrael. Can I do that as a rabbi of the shul or not?
Yes.
Why yes?
Because you're doing it for the next person. You're being yaitzim, and he has a chiyuv.
Okay. So he's saying, I'm coming along and doing the mitzvah for him, and I'm chayiv in it, right? The Pri Chadash has a different mahalach. He says not so simple that the rabbi could do that, could pull off the trick where he tells him, be quiet, I'll do it for you. Why? Because the Gemara Yerushalmi says, if you have, regarding Megillah, you have people in Yerushalayim read on, walled cities read on the 15th. Unwalled cities read on the 14th. Could a person from the 15th read for the people in the 14th, or vice versa? So says the Gemara Yerushalmi, absolutely not. Why? Because by regular case of Aravim Zelazeh, of Arvus, right, everyone has the same exact chiyuv. I'm chayiv, you're chayiv. But over here, in this case of the Megillah, this guy's chiyuv is in the 15th, and the other guy's chiyuv is in the 14th. So we can't have a Ben Yerushalayim, someone from Yerushalayim read for the person on the 14th. It's not possible because they have two different chiyuvim.
But now he's in that city. Once he's in that city,
we call him up. We say, listen, he's in Yerushalayim. We call, please come on to Tel Aviv right now. We need your help. Is Tel Aviv a suffix? No, right? Tel Aviv is definitely not. That's not a problem, right? Please come read for us. So we see over here, you can't do that. It's not a chiyuv for him. So it says the Pri Chadash. 1 second. So this rabbi lost out on his mitzvah, right? He missed the full 24 hours. We hold the can't make a bracha. So Lamaisa, I'm considered lav bar chiyuva. And he's considered bar chiyuva. So how can I come along and fill the mitzvah for him? You hear? That's what the Pri Chadash says. How would you respond to that? So the Ma'amar Mordechai...
I agree. I think he still is a chiyuv. He just can't...
So the Ma'amar Mordechai responds exactly what he says. What are you talking about? He says, at the end of the day, you cannot compare the case in Megillah to here. Because by Megillah, there is no chiyuv at all for this guy from Yerushalayim. But by our case, this Rav is really chayiv in Sfiras HaOmer. But because he forgot and he messed up, we're telling him you can't count for the bracha. Is he a bar chiyuva? He's definitely a bar chiyuva. Right? So therefore, he could still fill in for the other guy. Right? But whatever the case is, with regards to Sfiras HaOmer, fine, we have a tzad to think that it's okay. Okay, you have to see what the price can hold. It's not. But regarding this case of the katan that we're dealing with right now, this katan is 100% not a bar chiyuva. This 10-year-old boy that wants to go up to the Torah is not a bar chiyuva. How in the world is he going to go up and be mekayim the mitzvah for all of us? That's the question that we have to answer. Who could think of a basic svara to explain what the answer is?
You just said before, it's chiyuv the tzibur, not the individual.
Okay, therefore,
the katan.
So he's going to come along and do this mitzvah for the tzibur?
But he's not. It's a tzibur. He's part of the tzibur. No. The katan is part of the tzibur,
Okay.
right?
So the katan is part of the tzibur, therefore.
Therefore, he doesn't have his own chiyuv.
Okay.
He's not most.
But at the end, if it's a chiyuv in the tzibur, then the chiyuv should be fulfilled in the proper way of how dvarim shebekdusha are fulfilled.
After 7 olim.
Huh?
After 7 olim.
Okay, but what about again? But the Gemara seems to hold, unlike the Arizal, the pasuk in the Gemara is all 7. Nachon? Olim leminyan shiv'ah. Like the Rambam is mashma, right? So in other words, how could you have a kid come along and be mekayim the mitzvah? So one possible answer that the Achonim bring down is, okay, the mitzvah Kriyas Torah is only mitzvah d'Rabbanan. So it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Okay, so you have the kid. What's the big deal? Have the kid be mekayim the mitzvah d'Rabbanan.
Rabbeinu said it.
Okay, but it's not a mitzvah min Torah. The only kriyat mitzvah min Torah. The only mitzvah that's a mitzvah min Torah is Parshas Zachor. Maybe also Parshas Parah, according to some opinions. But on a weekly basis, it's not like you mechuyev to hear Parshas Bereshis and Noach.
Rabbanan came after Moshe, not before Moshe.
I understand, but is it a mitzvah min Torah to come along and read the Torah every single week? Moshe Rabbeinu felt that Am Yisrael needs to read the Torah. So he said you're going to have Monday, Thursday, and Shabbat. You don't go 3 days without the Torah. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu even said one Aliyah is fine, one pasuk is fine. You don't have to have.
But
Shabbat
Shabbat-
Ezra was that he made 3 psukim per Aliyah and Monday,
Moshe
Thursday,
made
10.
Shabbat. He made the chiyuv on Shabbat.
1 second. But is it mitzvah min Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu felt that we
Moshe
needed
said
it.
it in Mizmar Torah.
No. Moshe
There was no
Rabbeinu
Rabbanan
instituted.
then.
No, Moshe Rabbeinu
There's no
instituted
Rabbanan, they
many
don't
things.
exist
Doesn't mean
yet.
they're mitzvah min Torah. He's a Rabbanan. What is he? Moshe Rabbeinu. What is he? Moshe
Rabbeinu
Torah.
is midvar Hashem.
At the end of the day, you could call this 100% chiyuv de Rabbanan. You cannot call this chiyuv de Raisa. The Torah tells us to be mikayim, so why did Moshe have to be mitaken this?
Rabbanan is plural. Moshe is singular.
I had all Rabbanim. What, you think he was the only rabbi at the time?
He was.
He had Yeshua ben Nun, he had his Bezdin, he had Sanhedrin over there.
represent Rabbanan.
Huh? Right.
אבל לא היה רבנן. איזה רבנן?
רבנן נקרא.
הוא מפי הדבורה אמר את זה.
Whatever the case may be, Morai Rabotai, whatever the case may be, the mitzvah of Kriyas the Torah is not a mitzvah d'oraita. It's not a, except like we said, Parshas Zachor, maybe other parshiot, Parah maybe. It's not a mitzvah midoraita. Therefore, okay, so you have a katan fulfilling our mitzvah d'Rabbanan. But there's another question that has to be asked on this. Because we know, regarding Megillah, it's a chiyuv d'Rabbanan, right? That's definitely not d'oraita. Could a katan read the Megillah for us? No. What do we hold?
Because he doesn't have a chiyuv.
1 second. So just like by the Torah we say it's the Rabbanan, so the Katan can do it, so why not by the Megillah? So what does Tosfot say? Tosfot gives, the Tosfot says as follows. What does Tosfot say? Tosfot says, 1 second, the Katan is not mechuya b'mitzvot, ela me the Rabbanan. Chinuch is it in the Rabbanan. So now that means the mitzvah of Megillah is the Rabbanan, we are chayiv in Megillah with the Rabbanan, and the Katan is chayiv in mitzvahs with the Rabbanan, which means he's chayiv midrabanan to keep the mitzvah of the Rabbanan of Megillah. 2 Rabbanans cannot fulfill the mitzvah of 1 Rabbanan. We have 1 Rabbanan, and the Katan has 2 Rabbanans, Chinuch, and the actual mitzvah of the Megillah. So 2 Rabbanans, velo ati trei Rabbanan umafik chad Rabbanan. You cannot have 2 Rabbanans coming along and mutzi de chovah 1 Rabbanan.
For 2 the Rabbanan he can do it.
No, he cannot do it. That's what we're saying.
2 the Rabbanan.
What do you mean?
For another kids.
Oh, but that's a different story, right? The kids are no chiyuv, no problem. But for your 10-year-old kid to read for you, end of al-kazeh. So if that's the case, so back to our case of the Kriyas Sefer Torah, how can 2 Rabbanans come along and do it for 1 Rabbanan? Okay, so Kriyas Torah is the Rabbanan. So how can he do it? So the Maisa is about 3 or 4 opinions brought down in the poskim to explain this. It's a valid kasha. It's a valid question. First off, we have the Levush Yisrael. Rav Moshe finds brings this down in Igros Moshe. The Levush Yisrael says as follows. He says, I think you were saying that before, someone was saying it before. The katan is okay to go up mitzad the Shiva Oilim. Not mitzad the Kriya. Only mitzad the 7 Oilim. Right? Thus, says the Levush Yisrael, a katan can go up to the Torah, make a bracha, and then the Sheikh Tziva reads, the Bakar reads the Torah. That's how the Levush Yisrael explains it. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes on this, Ve'eina nachon klal. This is not right at all. Why? Because again, like we said, this takan of having a Baal Korah was only a takan that was instituted later on in times of Goyinim, sometime around there. When there are chayshas, people are not pronouncing the words right, and they don't know how to read, whatever it is. Therefore they say, you know what, you go up to the Torah, and we're going to have someone else read for you. But in the time when the Chachamim said that Katan could go up to the Torah, there was no Baal Korah. So the answer of saying that the Katan didn't read is not valid, because when they said the Katan could read, it was at the time when only the people that went up read. So therefore it says, Rav Moshe, that's Eino Nachal Khal. It's not an accurate answer, what the Mordechai said, what the Lush's Rot says. Now, the Rivash brings a different answer. And this answer is really the asserт of our case. The Rivash, and we'll see a Rosh as well. The Rivash writes as follows. The Chachamim knew she'ein hakol beki'in b'kriyat Sefer Torah. When the Chachamim instituted it, they knew, there are times of the Mishnah and there are times of Gemara, not everyone's a baki reading the Torah. We know the Gemara says anyone that mixes up an aleph and an ayin, right, shouldn't be going up. Right? Who over here could differentiate between an aleph and an ayin? Right? Chet and a chaf. Is it chacham, not chacham? Right? It's a cha and a cha. Right? So most people, even back then, they had trouble with these letters. With all the letters, the Reish, people had trouble with this and that. Right? So they knew that everyone's a baki in reading the Torah. Therefore, lo hitrichu ala tzibur lehalot zayin olim gedolim. They weren't matriach the tzibur to always have 7 gedolim that could read the Torah every single week. Ela itkinu. They were instituted when they came over to the Takana of 7 Oelbaum on Shabbos. Right? They instituted sheyachol hakatan hayodeh likrois la'alos leminyan shiva. When they originally made the Takana of having 7 Oelbaum, the original Takana was, we need 7 Olim the Torah. 7 people that could read and know who they're reading and who they're blessing. And therefore says the Rivash, there is no problem of a Katan going up, because that was the original institution. The original institution was what? That you have 7 Olim, and part of the 7 Olim could be anyone that knows how to read. The Tashbetz elaborates on this. Moshe Rabbeinu instituted to read the Torah on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbat. He didn't tell you how much and who and what. One early, one pasuk was enough. Later on, Ezra and Achamim instituted criteria, 3 psukim, 10 psukim, whatever it is, right? So when they instituted Moshe Rabbeinu's institution, when Moshe Rabbeinu instituted it, obviously no Katan went up. But once to be added onto the institution, then the Chachamim never put a gedder on who could go up. So anyways, when you let your Katan go up on Shvi, we already definitely fulfilled Moshe Rabbeinu's institution. It's not even a question. We fulfilled it 100%. Right? So the Tashbetz, that according to the Rivash, it turns out that the original Takana was to allow a Katan to go up to the Torah, and there is no problem of he's not a gadol or he's too young, or etc., etc. Clear or not clear? Move on. The Rosh has another explanation. In Gemara Bachot, he says as follows. He says, why in the world could a Katan be part of a minyan shiva, but cannot be part of a minyan of Eser, Asara for Kedusha? Doesn't make sense. We can't have Kriyas Torah without a minyan. Right? We cannot have Kriyas Torah without a minyan. And here we are letting Katan go up to Kriyas Torah. So it's almost like a stira. How could you have such a thing? So it says the Rosh as follows. This is what we discussed before. He says, Kriyat Torah is not a mitzvah on the Yachid. There is a mitzvah on the Yachid for Kriyas Torah. It's a mitzvah on the tzibur, lehashmi'a et Torah letzibur. That the Torah should be heard by the congregation. From Klaf, from the Sefer Torah, it should be heard by the congregation Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, etc., etc. That was a takana. And says the Mordechai, it doesn't matter who's mashmi'at. Make sure that tzibur hears the Kriyas Torah. He says that's how the original takana was. Therefore, a Katan could go up to the Torah even though he cannot be part of the Asara. That means if all you have is 9 Gedolim and 1 Katan, put aside the Rishon that hold it's okay. They wouldn't be good. You got to have 10 Gedolim and a Katan. That Katan could go up to the Torah. Right? That's how the Rosh explains it. The Takana was originally just to be mashmiya.
But don't you have to hear it from someone who's required to do that mitzvah?
So he's telling you that the mitzvah is just to be heard. To be heard by Bar Das. And a Katan that reaches the age of 7, 8, he's reading it out to you,
But
no
you're saying
problem.
that his chiyuv is the Rabbanon and this.
I understand. No, but he's telling you the original Takana of the Kriyat Torah was that anyone that can read it properly should be able to read it.
And he should.
Yes.
And he should be.
He could be, not should. He could be. No, זה לא מצווה מן התורה, זה מדרבנן. Right? So we're telling you that the Katan's obligation originally was equal to the Katan's obligation in terms of his capabilities. They said that what? The Chachamim originally metaken, that the Torah should be heard by the Tzibur. It's very common. You go from Eretz Yisrael to New York, right? So Yom Tov in New York, let's just say. So we're reading the Kriya of Yom Tov. Eretz Yisrael is not Yom Tov Sheni, they only have Yom Tov Rishon. So then they're already reading the next week's Parsha. at Shabbos. So when you go to Eretz Yisrael, you miss the parsha, right? So what do? It's not out of the world. It's not a chayva upon you to go hear every single parsha of the Torah. It's a chayva on the tzibur to be reading every parsha, right? So says the Rosh, it's not a chayva on you. You happen to step outside to go to the bathroom. You missed a few aliyahs. You don't have to go to the other room to go hear the aliyah that you missed. Kriyas Megillah is different, obviously. It's a chavas yachid. Kriyas Sefer Torah is a chavat tzibur. It says the Rosh that the original takana was that a child could 100% go up to the Torah and read for the tzibur. Now there's a big nafkamina between the Rosh and the Rivash. What's a nafkamina? According to the Rosh, a Kaddish can read all 7 aliyahs. Right? That's the original takana. According to the Rivash, the Chachamim didn't want to be matriachi to go find 7 gedolim so you could throw a katan in there. In other words, the Chatchila, you shouldn't be letting Katanim read the whole parsha. Right? You can let him go up for Shvi or whatever it is. So we see a big nafkamina. Right? There was a Meister, one of the Rabbanim told me that he was living in North Tel Aviv. There was no one, everyone Amiratzim over there. So he was an 11-year-old boy. He knew how to read the Torah very nicely. Right? And the Rabban in the community gave him a head to read the Torah. The whole parsha, every single week till he became bar mitzvah, and that was his official job, right? Because no one else would do it. They had no bnei yeshiva over there, and he was the one that read every single week. It was based on these rishonim, right? Based on the Rosh, right? You don't want to cause the tzibur not to have kriyas Torah. So let this 11-year-old kid read the Torah all the time, right? The truth is that this Rosh also presents another problem. I'll tell you why. When I go up to the Torah, I make a bracha, and then we have the Baal Korah that reads. Do I have to read along with the Baal Korah or not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
According to Halacha, you should really read with the Baal Korah.
Sure.
Why is that? Because if I make...
Because it was your chiyuv to read originally, and now, because you and I don't know how to read, or I don't know how to read.
In other words,
See, he's doing it
in other words, if I'm not going to go up and read with the Baal Korah, it's not... I'll tell you what the problem is. So why did I make a bracha and you didn't make a bracha? Here, you're sitting over there in the back. I go up here and I make a bracha. Mine not because I'm standing close to the Torah, I can make a bracha and you can't.
They called you up for the other.
I understand. So that I have to do something different than everyone else. Everyone else is Yotze Mishameh K'oineh, right? But I can't just take that same, because otherwise you should be able to make a bracha while you're sitting down as well. Right? Elamai, many parts can hold that the guy that goes up has to read together with the Baal Korah. I mean, the truth is, many people don't do that. Many times the Baal Korah rushes, or you're having a hard time following, or you're Amaretz, you don't want to read, whatever it is. So according to the Mechaber holds clearly, apparently it's the bracha levatala. I thought it seemed like for the Mechaber. The Ramah brings down that even a Summa could go up to the Torah, which implies that he could. It's not because the Summa can't see what he's reading. Again, he can't say Baal Peh, because Baal Peh won't help. You got to actually read it from the Ksav. Right? But the Chatchila would seem a person should be makbid to actually go up and read together with the Shiyat Tzibur. Right? And the truth is, you go to any of these Bali Tshuva shuls or any of these shuls that's full of Amarat, no one reads it with the Baal Korah. Some person can say, this is B'chal V'tala, so try not to let them go up, but give them Mosif, don't let them have one of the Bin Aliyahs, or try to this, try to that. Today, in many shuls, they sell Aliyahs. So how could you stop these guys from buying Shlishi and Revi and Chamishi and Jishi? Right? So, on Shabbos, we sell, also weekdays we started selling. What are you talking about? Right, the shul, electricity, this and that. But how are you going to be manea? You're going to be manea them from going up? How are you going to do this? Plus, Darkish Shalom, you don't want to cause machlekes. Tell the guy you can't go up. So what do we do with this? What's especially for the Sfardim who hold like the Mechaber, who seems to hold like the Bracha V'Tala, what do we do with them? These are the Ashkenazim have what to rely on. So I saw a beautiful explanation from Shud Shemesh U'Magen. Rav Shalom Mashash was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. He passed away about 10 years ago. He was the last chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. Right now, all the politics and everything else, you never know who's going to be next. Maybe you'll be some lady, for all you know. You know, Hashem Yerachem. But the point is, Hashem Yerachem. But whatever the case may be, he was a tremendous Talmid Chacham. So he writes, he wants to be Miyashiv the Minag, allow a bunch of Amiratzim to go up to the Torah. Look what he writes. He brings that from the Zohar Kadosh. The Zohar Kadosh writes as follows. He writes, whenever the Baal Korah reads the Torah, no one else should be reading with him. He should be the only one reading the Torah. No one else. 2 people shouldn't be reading with him. Says the Mechaber in the Bet Yosef. Maran writes, it's mashma from the Zohar that the person that goes up shouldn't be with him either. He says, Asur, 2 people should not be reading together with him. Should be 1 person reading the Torah at a time. Says Maran, even though it seems like the guy should actually read with the Baal Korah, the Zohar seems to say it's Asur. But then Maran is mitaretz. He says, no, it's Efshar Lomar that you should say quietly with him. Don't say it too loud. Say it quietly with him. Right? So the first tzad in the Bet Yosef was that you don't have to read it at all. Second tzad was, maybe the Zohar would tell you to read it quietly.
But the question is, sorry to interrupt, what if he sits in his own seat and reads it with the Baal Korah? What does he have to stand next to him?
Why does who have to stand next to him?
The one who gets the aliyah.
No, but you have to read from the klaf. You don't just read it from a regular chumash.
What if he has klaf?
No, what do you mean, who has klaf? Well, you're holding a Sefer Torah on your lap. What are you talking about? You have to go up, cover the tzibur, also you have to stand up. Also, the Gemara says, right? So it's not so. No, you don't do that, right? But whatever the case is, so the Bet Yosef brings two tzadim. Tzad number one is maybe just be quiet, and tzad number two is say quietly with the shliach tzibur, with the Baal Korah. So now, tzad number one, I'll tell you why it's a real tzad. Because the Beis Yosef and many poskim out there, the Radvaz brings this down as well. They have a klal. Anytime the machlok is a poskim on something, and the Gemara does not talk about that issue, you follow the Zohar. Alright, that's what the rule that the Radvaz brings down. So again, so if you have a machlok is a poskim, the Gemara, okay, so they understand the Gemara in a certain way, fine, beseder. But when the Gemara doesn't talk about the topic, and the poskim argue on the topic, like over here, some poskim hold that Shomei Ka'oinit does apply by Sefer Torah, and some hold not. Some hold you got to actually read the Torah with the Chazaq. So says Maran, says the Bet Yosef, that in this case where the Gemara doesn't talk about the case, about what you have to do, Shomei Ka'oinit, not Shomei Ka'oinit, you could rely on the Zohar Kodesh and not read at all. But then Bet Yosef ends off, maybe what the Zohar would hold is that you should say it quietly. It says Rav Shalom Mashash as follows. It says, in reality we see two tirutzim in the Beis Yosef, in the Bet Yosef. Two tirutzim. So of course Maran ends off with the second tirutzim, you should say quietly. But he only did that to fit the opinion of the Rishonim, the whole that you must say it with the Chazan, with the Baal Korah. He only wanted to fit the Zohar to fit those Rishonim. But in reality, the basic understanding of the Zohar Kadosh is that no one should be reading anything while the Chazan is. The Baal Korah reads it, everyone else fulfills Shomei Ka'oinit, including the guy that goes up to the Torah. So therefore it says, Shalom Mashash, that a shul should not be monea and Amma Aretz from going up to the Torah, because at the end of the day, there's a tzad to say that's what the Zohar holds, and that's what we see the Ramah seems to hold clearly as well. So even though Maran does not hold like that in the Shulchan Aruch, but being that he brings his tzad in the Bet Yosef, and the Ramah holds like that as well, therefore, yesh makom le'akel, and do not make a machloket because of this, he says. Do not make a machloket. He says there's people that go up, not only they can't read the Torah, they don't know how to read the bracha. He says, you sit down and you read with him. Baruch, Baruch, right? He says, even now let them go up, this could be mechazik the person. If you're going to tell him, no, sorry, you don't know how to read, this could be marking the person in Torah mitzvahs. So, maskana dedina, from what we see over here, obviously every case has to be discussed with everyone's personal rav. But what we see over here is that from the basic understanding of the Gemara and the Rambam, it seems like a minor could go up to the Torah, even on Monday and Thursday, Rosh Chodesh, Yom Kippur, Yom Tov, and Shabbos. But the minhag is absolutely not to do that, except certain Sephardic communities that allow a kid to go up on Shabbos, and Bish'as Chag on Mondays and Thursdays as well. So if you happen to see a kid that's reading the Torah and you say, when's your bar mitzvah? Next week? What do you mean? This is what to rely on, that you definitely fulfill your mitzvah, especially based on what the Rosh says, that the mitzvah is to be mashmiya the kriyas Torah. It doesn't matter who's being mashmiya, right? And the reason why we say no to women is because of kavod tzibur. But lavachi, that would also be okay, right? Therefore, Moshe finds it. You should look through the truth. I didn't have a chance to finish it, but because it's funny, because I have at home the English Moshe. For some reason, you have it and you have a blank page. Another one, a blank page. Having the truth that I needed, I couldn't get it clear. So I picked it up this morning over here. But whatever the case is, look through the truth and we'll find out where Moshe holds the Maisa. But there is what to be somechan.
What did you say about Yerushalayim, the Rav Ilan Meirov? I heard you something in the
what?
interview. So they interview you?
About some other shtiyot. לא משהו מיוחד. אוקיי, חזקים מאוד.